One.
Good afternoon and welcome to this tutorial on how to integrate the Prezi application into your classroom. I just wanted to begin real quick with to highlight some reasons for why Prezi is an effective tool to have in your classroom. So one of the top ones is that this application definitely appeals to some of the ISTE standards, specifically the ISTE standards for educators, numbers 4 and 5, which are the collaborator and designer, and the ISTE standards for students, number 7, which is the global collaborator. So standard number 4 for educators and number 7 for students basically say that it's the usage of tools that to be able to use with students and with other staff members in order to share ideas, best practices, etc. And one of the features of Prezi is the ability to collaborate on one project together, which is a great thing. And as for the designer for standard number 5 for educators, talks about creating authentic learner-driven activities. And again, Prezi is a really innovative take on the traditional lecture format. In addition to these standards, Prezi appeals to Bloom's taxonomy, specifically towards the levels of analysis and synthesis, to be able to evaluate through information and to combine it together to create something new and exciting. So those are just some reasons for why Prezi is a useful tool. What I'm going to do in this tutorial is just take you through a general overview of a Prezi I've already created to show you some of the features, and then be able to show you what the viewers will see when they go through it, and be able to see ways for you to utilize this in your classroom. So the first thing you'll notice, and the reason, one of the big pieces of why Prezi is a unique tool, is it departs from the usual standard for PowerPoints or Google Slides, things like that, which are set up in a very linear format, and you have to click through all the slides. Instead, Prezi puts all of the information on one entire canvas, and you really can get quite expansive with what that would look like. There's different ways you can format it that I'll show you, but all of the information is seen there, and so the viewers can be able to already hone in on certain subtopics or areas that they wanted to focus on, rather than have to click through a bunch of slides. You have zoom in and zoom out options, which is very useful to be able to sort of bounce around. So it definitely has a sort of a mind map type of feel to it. So when you create your first Prezi, the best part too, Prezi itself is free. There is paid versions of it in which you have more ways to set privacy. When you use the free membership piece of it, this presentation is available to anyone on the web who can look for it, but you can be able to enable privacy settings with paid memberships, as well as more advanced presenter options. Okay, but I'm showing you the free version today. So when you start, you're given the sort of main hub here. This is one of the best parts. You go to the insert, and you're not only given the selection to insert a text, you can insert images, you can embed videos, you can put audio to all of these as well. Very similar to the Google Slides, but again, you can specialize and be able to do those sorts of things as well. So this is sort of the main hub, the overview portion you can see up here. It gives you that, and then you can create all these subtopics, and you're given two choices. The planetary, which is this one here, you've got, again, the major one and the little guys here, or a stack, and I've actually used one of these to show you what a stack would look like, which is more of the traditional sort of slide-based piece. So when you go ahead and create a subtopic, from the creator standpoint, you're given the chance to zoom in, okay, as well as zoom out again too. This is one of the criticisms of this application that can be a little disorienting, especially if you have multiple subtopics. You're kind of weaving in and out if you're going too fast. There have been reports of some motion sickness, but I think if you prepare people at least ahead of time, it shouldn't be too bad. So again, if I zoom in on here, you'll notice that it goes right into this subtopic, and again, you can fill it. I decided to put an image in here, and then I've made another subtopic even that you can zoom in even further, so you can really be able to dissect things, get people to look at the nitty gritty of all these different pieces. Okay, and so that's just one example of creating the various subtopics that you can do. If I went to a similar subtopic down here, this I created using the stack option. Okay, and this you can see is a much more, rather than have some of that background left over, you can be able to format it with different ways. There's presets that you can utilize, the thickness of your writing and the text and the font and all that as well. You can add different pages to it. Okay, you see as we've titled here. Okay, so when I sort of come out again, it's still all underneath this one subtopic that I've color-coded. You can insert shapes, which can be not necessarily linked to direct subtopics, but it could be random pieces of information or a isolated video that doesn't necessarily, that you wanted to include in your presentation, but doesn't have to follow a progression. Okay, you can create arrows. All these sorts of things are found up here in the different ways you can stylize. I created a background with it. You can insert stuff, and like I said, you can be able to share it, be able to collaborate, have people add to it as well, to see what it looks like. So that's just sort of the generic, basic way on presenting the information. So if I looked in then from what it would seem from an actual viewer standpoint, so here you've got your main stuff, and I go to one of the subtopics here. Okay, in addition to clicking, you can also be able to use the arrow keys, the up and down arrows, to be able to zoom in on subtopic 1. Here I've had a chance to zoom in on the image itself, gone over to the other subtopic area as well. Okay, there I've jumped right down to that subtopic piece. Okay, and so these are just different ways, and I'm going to just escape out of that here, that you can be able to see that Prezi really has a diversity, and a real way to be able to present information in a nonlinear format, which I think is really, really essential in today's classroom. So again, it can be applied to almost any content area. In terms of grade levels, I would definitely aim this towards older students, grades maybe 6 through 12, especially if you're asking them to create this. I can see some very basic ones done for younger kids, but it's definitely aimed in terms of manipulating for the older students as well. So thank you very much for watching this tutorial, and I hope you have a good day.